So, another video about the election, but I think this is one that certainly needs to be made. And it's literally this. There is a lot of things you can point to blame for, quite frankly, the election of Donald Trump. And time will tell as to really how bad he is. But the group of people that have to own up, and seriously own up, and take responsibility for this, and quite frankly their actions really for certainly the past 5 or 6 years, is Liberals. And we really have to take responsibility, because even as someone who is a Liberal myself, I have done this. We all have at some point. What am I talking about? Well, we don't debate anymore. So few Liberals these days are willing to sit down and actually talk with someone from the opposition. They are afraid to hear a dissenting idea. And you see this all the time, all over the internet. You know, it's literally a case of you're either on the left, you're either on the right, and there is no in between. So is it any surprise that when people asked at the polls for both Brexit and Donald Trump, they said, "Oh, I'm voting for Hillary," but then in the voting booth they put a big fat X next to Leave and Trump? Because when they want to discuss their issues, when someone says, "I think immigration is a problem with my life," instead of actually talking to them and trying to get to the root cause and trying to explain to them it's not immigration that's the problem, there are all these other factors that are going in that you seem to be missing. Instead, you call them racists. How do you think they're meant to react to that? The exact conditions that you set for the past couple of years have been that. So my shout out to Liberals is we have stopped trying to win, hearts and minds, and instead we've become embattered fortresses that no one is allowed to leave or enter. And you have to go out, you have to leave those fortresses, you have to leave those safe spaces, and you have to go out and you have to talk to people. You have to stand there with the courage of your convictions, and you might have to admit that sometimes your points might be wrong, or that your points might not have a lot of information to back them up, but you are willing to stand by your points. You are willing to stand by your arguments. And yes, as I said just a few moments ago, you might have to admit that you are wrong. There is nothing wrong with that. But you should engage in debate and discussion with people, and you should not be afraid. You should not be creating an environment where people are afraid to say what their political opinions are. Because come election days, you get things like Trump and Brexit happening. That's what happens. And I'm sorry if people think this is harsh. I'm sorry if people don't seem to understand that, but that's literally the case we are in. Because you have sat there, and instead of engaging with someone who was 50-50 on Trump, even though he's done all these bad things, they saw Trump as the better option for them. And because you didn't engage with them, because you didn't actually talk and discuss with them, not argue, discuss, you sent them to Trump. And that's what happened. So, do you agree with me that Liberals, need to take responsibility for this? I think they do. I think they need to bear a lot of responsibility. And to a lot of people, you know, I saw Steven Crowder's video. I vehemently disagree with his opinion on it. But ironically, on this one occasion, I do agree with him. We chased away so many potential allies and votes because instead of discussing with them and trying to reason and debate with them, we argued and tried to silence people by calling them racist because you just didn't want to hear any other political idea or concept. And that's just wrong and sad, because that's not how liberals should act.